Hey guys, let's get started in a few minutes, and I'll give you a quick tour on SynthMaster One. So let me know if you hear me fine. Good morning, Mr. Harmony Smurf. Can you hear me good? Right, so let's wait a couple of more minutes and we'll get started. So who do we have here? Yeah, am I coming through too loud? Or the synth is too loud? Yeah, we'll get the synth. Yeah. So how things are now? Is it any better? Hear me fine? Yeah. All right, guys. So yeah, I'm trying to get things going here, and yeah, I don't know how the connection will be. Seems like the whole internet is streaming. Everybody is online, so I'm having some issues. So let's give it a go, and we'll see if I can finish this up. In any rate, yeah, I see that there's like a 20 to 30 second delay. It doesn't really matter because I'm gonna give you a quick run through SynthMaster One. Now, if you don't know this synthesizer, it is very simple but very effective synthesizer. It's a wavetable synthesizer by KV331 Audio. And these guys are also the same guys that make SynthMaster 2, which is one of the best synthesizers out there for the price. It is a monster, and I have a tutorial on this in my channel. So if you're new to my channel, you're most welcome to browse through my tutorials and learn and subscribe, of course, if that's interesting for you. So yeah, let's also have a quick look here. I have a Facebook page with some cool stuff in it. It's called Udi Creative Sound Design, and you're most welcome to like it. It's easy to find. And yeah, that's the SynthMaster website. So joining this session will give you an extra 30% off whatever is on the site. So that's courtesy of the guys from SynthMaster, just because I asked them to. So this is it. So let's dive in. It's going to be about 30 minutes to 45 minutes session. So I hope it's going to go smooth. So SynthMaster One is really kind of all in one. One place where you see everything. There's not a lot of hidden controls, and we have two oscillators. So we have oscillator 1 and oscillator 2, and each oscillator also have a sub oscillator. Okay, so this is the sub, and that sub oscillator can be used to have some kind of additional sound to the oscillator here, but also can be used to modulate, to do amp modulation, ring, phase, frequency modulation to the oscillator here. So that's pretty cool as well. Now, if you don't know a lot about synthesis, really, that's again not the point of this session, but I'll give you some tips and some direction how to approach synthesizers and synthesis. So everything starts with the oscillator. The oscillator is the engine that produces the sound, and sound comes out of that device, going through filters, going through some effects, and then eventually going out to the amplifier, and then we hear sounds. But the nature, the timbre, the way the sound we produce is actually made is by having different wave forms. And you can see here that I can click on the oscillator and select, for example, sine wave, and that will be a very clean sound. So let me go and do the init preset here. So clicking here will give you a menu. You go to init preset, then we can click here again, get a sine wave, very, very clean, and we can have a look at the oscillator. And let's have also an analyzer. So these are free tools by Melda Productions, so you can get them. It's very easy. And let me show you what happens when I play. So you see this is the C note, very clean. Again, C note, very clean. That's the way it looks. But if we go to Sawtooth, we get a lot more frequencies, and that's where we can go and filter out some of the frequencies. So we have two oscillators, each on one, in each side here. We have two filters, and then we have two LFOs and 4 envelopes. So that's very, very simple configuration. Not a lot, but it's quite enough. On top of these devices, on top of this configuration, we also have an arpeggiator, which is pretty cool. Which it will give us the ability to sequence and do a lot of stuff. So now that we have the basic idea here, I want to go back to our routing. So as sound goes out of our oscillators, and we have oscillator 1 and 2, we can configure this in either series, in parallel, or split. So let's have a quick look here. So this is in parallel, meaning we have this route sub oscillator goes and we have the second oscillator here, and then they sum up, and then it splits into the filters and amps. But we also have a series mode, and we have a split where each oscillator, each filter goes to its own filtering and amplifier. So that's the idea of the routing. Okay, and then we can add more stuff on this as we go, like effects. And all the effects that we see here are basically configurable. You can turn them on and off by clicking next to the title here. And what more important is clicking on these cells, right-clicking on these cells will give you the list of options. So you can have different selection of the effects. For example, I can have let's get a tremolo. So that's our tremolo, and I have a mix knob. So I hope you get the idea here. And then I can also have you know, other types of effects like delays. Right, so the next and very important part of this synthesizer is the filter. And we have a couple of filters here. And these filters are very versatile. So let's have them going here. And we have filter 1 and we have filter 2. Clicking here on this button here, you'll get different types of implementations. So for example, the ladder is kind of a mini Moog ladder filter inspired. We have a diode, which I'm not sure. I think that's like TR303. And we have a state variable, which I have no idea. Everything is in the manual. Forgive me if I don't get the names correctly. But in any rate, we have low pass, we have high pass, we have band pass, we have band stop, and so on. So I can select what type of filter I want, and then I can definitely do what this filter is supposed to be doing, is cut off some of the frequencies. Let's remove the delay, and I can add resonance. We also have input gain. We have drive to drive the signal, because sometimes we attenuate the signal by removing some frequencies. So the signal is too quiet. We can have that driven, and then we can do some more stuff here. Two very cool features that we have here in SynthMaster One is the LFO and the mode envelope. And this is, you know, sometimes people, when you're synthesizing sounds, then you want to have the LFO, and I didn't say anything about the LFO, but we'll get there in a minute. So we want to have the LFO do something to the cutoff, so you know, like automate this and modulate this. So here in SynthMaster One, it's already inside. So LFO 1 and 2, which are LFO 1 here and LFO 2, then both of them are already hardwired here. And we have some modulation envelope inserted here. So these are the envelopes. And if you don't know anything about envelopes and you're not sure about LFOs, I also have some very quick 5 minutes or less videos in my channel that explains these concepts very simply. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand those things. Very simple. And so the LFO is basically an oscillator. It just, instead of creating sounds, instead of using it to produce sound or audio, we're using it to manipulate, to change other parameters. So in this case, one of the most useful features here is that we have the LFO already injected here. So there are other things that are very useful here, like boosting and acid. Acid will give you some linkage between the cutoff and the resonance. So that's pretty cool as well. So let's talk about envelopes, and then we'll go to some other stuff that we have here. So what is an envelope? Envelope is a way for us to shape how the sound reacts over time when we're playing in the keyboard, right? So when I play in my keyboard here, I'm pressing a key, and then that's producing the sound. But as I remove my finger from the keyboard, then the sound just disappears, right? So that's the thing that we can use envelopes for. So we have 4 envelopes, and just before I continue this, I have a question in the chat. Am I using Cubase? Yes, I'm using Cubase 10.5, the latest release. So if you have any questions on Cubase, maybe we can do something, some other time. In any rate, so we have our 4 envelopes, and just to get things straight here, right. Amp envelope 1 and amp envelope 2 are already hardwired, or already connected to oscillator 1 and oscillator 2, and that's again something that they've thought will be very useful, because if you don't know a lot about synthesis, then you might get things confused, or but here it's very simple. So let's talk about envelopes. Envelope 1 here, amp envelope 1, is already hardwired. You can see it's hardwired to this chain here. And what it means is that when I'm playing a key, I'm as long as I'm playing the key, and when I remove my finger, there's something going on here. The sound is starting, and then it stops. So the release will control how fast the sound will dissolve, will fade out. More release, the longer the sound will sustain after I remove my finger from the keyboard. Then we have the second easy control here. This is the attack. The attack is how long would it take for the sound to reach its maximum velocity, the maximum sound. So let's play with that. So if we're talking about pads, if we're talking about more atmospheric sounds, then definitely you need more attack. So the attack is longer. And then we have a couple of other controls here. This is the sustain, and sustain will be basically the amount that we want to have the sound reach when when we are keeping our finger. So as long as I'm keeping my finger on the keyboard, then the sound will go up to its maximum value with the attack, and then it will drop to a sustained level. So for example, this will be 50%. So I'm playing something, it will take some time to reach the maximum value, and then it will drop to some 50%. So there is a question if I can change the the curve. I don't think so. I need to check it out. Yeah, I don't think so. So there are all kinds of options here, but I didn't find anything. You know what? I'll have a look. Right, so that's the envelope, and good question there. And again, this is just an overview. I'll check it out. I thought about this question myself just as I started talking about this, and I realized that I actually don't know if we can change the curve, but it's a good question. So what else can we do here? So we have the LFO and we have those envelopes, and what's interesting about this is that we can drag and drop these controls. So for example, I can take LFO1, click on this label here, click, and just drop it on, for example, the semitones or the detuning or whatever I want. For example, on the width, panning, for example, and anything else. So I can, for example, let's put that on the detuning here. Right, and we can go on and on, and we can take the LFO, drag it, and drop it on the resonance. And if we want to control the amount of or the range of the modulation, we just need to click on this arch, click, and drag up or down. Right, so this is again very simple to use. We can do the same for the modulation envelopes. For example, I can do something like take the modulation and drop it on anything that I want. So that's the idea here. Some other stuff that we have before we maybe move into more details are the controls over here. We have the gliding, and we can go to slide mode. But in order for us to do this, we need to basically go to mono mode. So we have polyphony and mono mode here. Right, so that's the idea here. And so when we look into those devices here, it is important to see that we can control the amount. For example, for the envelopes, we can control the velocity, and we have some other controls that I didn't really cover. For example, we have noise that we can inject into our LFO, and we have sample and hold, which this is a kind of a concept that will bring some randomness or some weird stuff into play here. So you can see that instead of having a very usual sine wave, we have something completely different here, and that will control whatever the LFO controls. Right, and we can add some effects just to give things more, life. And so on. So that's the idea here. And then we have some other stuff that we can do. We can add vibrato to oscillator 1 and 2, and we have some other stuff that we can do. For example, we have the attack and speed of the vibrato here. The attack will mean that it will take a little bit of time for the vibrato to kick in. Yeah, about my clipping here, maybe it's yeah, it's probably from before. Just cleared it. Right, so let's do something else now. So I'm gonna go to the init preset, and now we can select a wave table. So wavetable is a bunch of waveforms that are stacked together, and then we can, for example, just go through them and with the index. So you see this. So in this case, we can do a couple of things. Of course, we can do it manually, but what most people would do is to automate this either with an envelope or with an LFO. So the easiest will be an LFO. So I'll grab the LFO and just drop it on the index. And then I can select the range and position, start position and range. Clicking on the top here and dragging down and up and down. I don't like this, so I can go waveforms and select more, you know, stuff here, wavetables. And go on and on. So wavetables, let's get from vandalism. Now I can go back to our envelopes here and do something else. I can take an mod envelope and drop it on my cutoff, for example. But instead of doing that, I have the mod envelope already hardwired here. So what does it mean? You can see that when I'm moving this around, I actually influencing the cutoff. But we have the mode envelope here. We can do something like this, and then our filter will behave as such. Of course, I need to turn it on. And you see the little dot here, it just, you know, moving all the way. I can do this slower, just get this. And it's as if I'm automating the cutoff instead of doing it manually. So that's the mode envelope. And when I release my finger from the keyboard, it will drop back. Now, there is a concept of matching the mod envelope and the amp envelope, because if the filter mod envelope is shorter than the amp envelope, then we'll probably not get the same result as we imagine. Now, some other stuff that we can do here, just to finish up this section here, is we can introduce the second oscillator. We can tune it, for example, in octaves. We can have unison here. So this is too loud. I can have filter 2, effect here in effect, but I can also do something else. I can go and do split. I can have this sub go to let's say another octave up, and have a look at the panel here. When I'm changing any of the parameters, you'll see the values in the upper panel. And I can have some other stuff going on here. I can have some semitones, and now I have some kind of a chord. Let's add some reverb, because we always can use more reverb. And we can add some delay, for example. Right, so that's the idea here. So far, pretty simple. 2 oscillators. We have a sub oscillator that can be used to have more sounds, and we can definitely have that to our advantage. For example, we can have it 2-3 octaves up. Right, and I can do some more stuff here. I can actually use this sub to do phase modulation. So that's the idea here. And some other stuff that we have is the arpeggiator. So arpeggiator, we can turn it on, and let's play something. So first of all, we can change the amount of steps here, and we can do this 4 steps. Other things we can do is we can definitely change the bass time. But the more fun stuff begins when we are changing the notes here. So I can have something like this. So this is something like this, and we can scroll up and down here. Okay, clicking here on the step here. Let's do this. So that's the idea of the step or the arpeggiator, and we can change some other stuff. So let's have a look. I can do duration. I can add some swing. And so on. So some other stuff that I can do here is I can copy the settings, reset to default, and do some other stuff like import MIDI sequences, which I'm not going to show right now. So you know, sorry, we don't have enough time. So I have a question here to, you know, how to design and build plugins. Unfortunately, I've no idea. I don't know. You need to do programming. I'm a software engineer myself, but I've never done plugins. Definitely, if you're into sound design, you should check out a reactor by a Native Instruments or a Contact, and you can create your own sampled or engineer your own synthesizers. So sorry about that. Don't have enough enough experience. So that's the arpeggiator, and we can set the velocity by note or sample and hold and steps. We can change the octaves. And so on. So this is pretty much it. I think we've covered most of the options here. Of course, it's not a full-fledged course. What I'll do is I'll just give you in the chat now the coupon. For 30% off if you like to purchase it from KV 331 audio. So the coupon will be UDI audio, and I'll put it in the description. Okay, so you can use it. And yeah, let's have some preset run, and I'll show you what's inside. So when you go to SynthMaster One, go to browse, you see that you have different categories, different instrument types. We can select basses, and we have analog basses or distorted, whatever, and then we can just select something. And you can see that some of the preset will have arpeggiators or sequencers running here, but they are not enabled. Very cool. So going back to the synth, you do it here. Of course, you can save your preset, and you can definitely see what's going on. You can see the waveform. We have the two oscillators running at the same time. We have -2 octaves here, unison, to have more thicker sound. We also have another waveform here running to give us some more interesting stuff in the sound. And we can see what's going on here in the cutoff. And if we go to the mode matrix, that's an important part that we should give it some thought. Well, you can see how things are routed. So for example, ME, that's a mode envelope 2. That's the mode envelope 2. This one will affect two targets. First of all, the volume of oscillator 1 and the volume of oscillator 2. And that will be controlled by this modulator envelope. But we also have some other stuff going on. For example, changing the phase of oscillator 1 is affected by mode envelope 1, and so on. So and we have the modulation wheel. All right, very cool. So we can go on and on. Very simple sound, very gritty sound. We can see that this is already 1 octave below. The other oscillator is a simple, simple sawtooth, nothing special. And then we have the filter 1, just works its way almost all the way down. So there is a lot of things going on here that are more related to how you synthesize sounds. But definitely, if you take some of the simple simpler patches, you can work them out, because again, not a lot of things going on here at the same time. You only have 2 oscillators, 2 filters, 4 envelopes, 2 LFOs, and the routing. So that's pretty much it. So I hope that was informative for you guys. And yeah, interesting times. I have who'd known here. You're asking if I'm under lockdown. Yes, I'm in Israel. We are. I mean, I'm at home. The family is at home. It's not a complete lockdown. I still can go to the grocery shops and, you know, do some walks in the street. But I think this is gonna be restricted later today. So I hope everybody is in good health, and, you know, keep yourself safe. Don't go into crowd places. Stay at home. I guess that's the only thing that we can do. And yeah, I really appreciate everybody for sticking here for this session. And yeah, I'm not sure what you're asking about Trump. Let's keep politics out of the game here. We're in the music game. I don't care much about Mr. Trump, and hopefully we'll get this epidemic behind us before summertime, right? So guys, if you have any question or request or anything at all, please leave a comment below this video. I'm gonna leave this video in my channel, so you're most welcome to watch it later. I do have other stuff in the channel, and so if you have some free time, watch my videos. And if you like, you can follow me in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I can put the links in the description of this video, and yeah, I'll see you there. And sometimes I have some coupons, or I have some discounts, or I'm just, you know, sharing that. So that's what I'm doing here. And in my Facebook group that I manage, I have a couple of Facebook groups that you can join. One of them is for learning, and another one for just general discussion. So you're most welcome to join there, where I sometimes advertise some discounts and stuff. So yeah, if you purchase anything using my links, not this link that I will share now, but if you're, you know, in my groups, then there are affiliate links, which means that I'll get a little something. I also have Patreon account, so if you want to support my my work here, then you're most welcome. And I'll put the link in the chat. So definitely appreciate your support. But just watching my my videos is enough support for me. So I really have to go now, and let's do let's do some other stuff soon. If you leave me a note or anything, then you know, definitely I'll keep you updated with upcoming events. If you follow me in Facebook, let me just put my page here. Then you'll know when I'm up and running some online stuff. So this is my page, my Facebook page. It's in the chat now. All right, so I have to go now to take care of my little daughter, because she's bored to death, apparently, and so I need to go and do something. So again, thank you so much. See you soon. Bye bye. And I'll play some patches now.